Hi, everybody. My name is Zeb Wellborn. I'm president of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm chatting with Lorraine Clarno. Lorraine, would you mind telling everybody which chamber you're with and how long you've been with that chamber?
You bet. I am with the Kalispell Chamber of Commerce up in the northwest corner of Montana, and I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary here. Prior to that, I was 21 years in Beaverton, Oregon, and preceding that was 5 years in Hillsboro, Oregon. So I guess that would add up to about 27 total.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time. And I know in the past I've heard great things about Beaverton, so I'm sure that you did lots of great work while you were there. Uh, so I have the question that I'm asking several CEOs is
Mhm.
what are some mission-driven activities that you've generated revenue from that are not event-based?
Absolutely. Or not event specific, maybe, because there are events within the initiatives. But so we have, I would say, four primarily. We have a workforce development education division, which has multiple initiatives within it, from working with our middle schools, high schools to community college, and then incumbent workforce retraining programming. So that's a biggie. And then we have a manufacturing alliance and a bioscience alliance. And then we also run our leadership Flathead program. So each of those four areas generate revenue and support from our membership for us to do the work within each of those.
That's awesome. And do you mind if I ask you, so you said Manufacturing Alliance, what was the other alliance?
Bioscience.
Bioscience. And then the last one was leadership, right?
Leadership Flathead, yes.
Leadership Flathead. What does Leadership Flathead mean?
Well, we are in Flathead County, and we're kind of considered a bit of the regional chamber of commerce. We have wonderful neighboring chambers in Whitefish, Big Fork, Lakeside, but we're kind of the regional trade center for the valley, and the valley is Flathead. So our leadership program encompasses the entire area.
Got it. And would you mind sharing a little bit of details about the leadership program and how you generate revenue from that?
Sure. Primary revenue comes from sponsorships. We look at it as a training ground, not only for other nonprofits and leadership for boards in our community, but also training and getting folks interested in running for elected office. So our city and county are vested in it as well. They want good people to serve on their boards and commissions and councils, of course. So, it's a very familiar format to most chamber programs. We start out with a retreat, and then we have 9 program days that focus on different areas of our community. There's a class project at the end, and then all of those folks that complete year 1 serve as co-chairs and planners in year 2. So there's tuition. Our tuition right now is, I believe, $13.50, and then we have sponsors. And most of those come based off of the day's component work of each month, whatever area we're focusing on, whether it's healthcare, business and economy, etc.
Got it. And then I'm planning on implementing this soon, so that's why I'm kind of asking these questions. So I like the format that you articulated, where you have the year 1 and year 2, so they attend the class from year 1 and then they plan it in year 2. I had a question where I'm kind of curious to know. I would imagine there'd be some drop off from people coming from year 1 to year 2. Is that the case? How do you solve that?
Well, you can't really solve it. The majority of drop-offs, honestly, Zeb, come from mobility, folks who transfer out of the area. There's not much you can do about that. So if you have a class between 30 and 40, you should be well covered.
Cool. That's good to know. And then you mentioned that you're invested with like the cities or that the cities are invested in the program, the counties invested in the program. Are they financially invested, or are they just supportive of the program?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. They send participants as well as do some minor sponsorship. And then, very supportive when we're out and about in our recruitment mode.
Excellent. And then let me go into the alliances. So you mentioned Manufacturing Alliance and the Bioscience Alliance. Talk to me a little bit about like how that's formatted And then also how you get funding for those two programs.
So both of them have a steering committee that oversees and kind of works and sets the plan of action for the year. And then we have a staff person that is support to the group. Our valley, for the most part, we're a mountain community and very heavy into tourism and hospitality. We have a few large manufacturers here, but what we're doing with our economic development is trying to get more of those folks in. They recognize with our workforce shortages the last few years that we need to build capacity within manufacturing, recognizing that yes, there may be folks that move around from employer to employer, but we're not going to attract the right people in if we don't have a solid job base in that cluster. So there's a lot of work going on there. We have two larger manufacturers, Applied Materials and Class 1, which build the machines that the Intels of the world use to make the microchips. And then we have a lot of food manufacturing. We're starting to get a lot of outdoor gear and apparel manufacturing coming in, of course, because of Glacier National Park and all the different outdoor activities here on the lakes and so forth. So it's a growing cluster. And so it's an advisory support steering group, and they really help direct us as to who we need to be talking to and hopefully enticing to bring high wage jobs into the valley. And bioscience is pretty similar to that. We are very blessed. We have a venture capitalist here in the valley, Michael Gogan, and his thing is bioscience. That is his background, passion, and what he is looking to for the future. So he recently bought an old hospital site up in between Kalispell and Whitefish. And he is planning on and is underway in developing a state-of-the-art bioscience facility up this way. So, we need the people, we need the supply chains, we need all that's going to go into that. So there again, the steering group works with a staff person, and there's a lot of bioscience now growing in Missoula. So we're trying to really make strong connections within the different communities here in Montana to really get bioscience taking off.
So let me just recap that a little bit. So you're getting these manufacturing businesses together. So I'm guessing the CEOs of these manufacturing businesses that are coming together.
CEOs and HR leads.
CEOs and HR leads, and then you're getting together and they're kind of telling you, like, here's the challenges that we're facing right now, and then you just have a designated staff person that goes and tries to solve those challenges that they're telling you that they're having.
Well, and more like facilitate themselves. They're the ones that actually have the answers. It's certainly not us, right?
Yeah.
But building those connections and matching up folks to be kind of mastermind teams and sitting down and then mapping out a plan for what might work.
And then where does the funding come from for that program?
From the manufacturers.
So they pay into it and
yes, I shared with you, we just had our grand event last night. This is our annual meeting and biggest fundraiser of the year. We actually do a direct ask, which is a paddle raise, to specific initiatives that we are moving forward with in the next year. And so that's where the majority of dollars come from. And then it's a lot of my work individually, making calls, having meetings, talking to folks, letting them know what we're doing, and getting them to put resources in.
Let me ask you about that direct ask that you make. How is that structured in your event? So you do the direct ask. What does that look like for you?
So after our live auction is finished, I get up, I do a quick 3-minute speech on what our initiatives are going to be within the alliances going into next year. And then the auctioneer comes back and does the direct ask paddle raise. This year we started at 2,500, went down to 1,000, then 500 and 250. And so that gets us about halfway there for our year goal. And then the rest of it is the good old fashioned chamber CEO going out and pounding the pavement, making the phone calls and having the talks. So
Got it. And then, so let me ask you that question, because I would be nervous about doing something like that and then nobody's raising their hand, you know?
No, you don't want to do that. You always
Yeah.
go into it knowing you've got, one or two people at your top level that pre-commit to you.
Yeah.
Yes, I will raise at 2,500. Yes, I will raise at 1,000. And
Cool.
that gets the energy moving in the room.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And so then, is it just one or two, or is it more than one or two?
Oh, it's more than one or two. Yes, I don't have numbers from last night.
Yeah.
I can tell you at the 2,500 level last night, I think we got 3, and then we probably got 15 to 21,000s, and then a good number of 500s and a good number of 250s. But I don't know the numbers, or I'd share.
Yeah, no, and I was just curious to know how many people you got in advance prepared to raise their hands. So
I can tell you that pre-event, I got commitments of $8,000, and that did not include the ones that would be raising on the floor at the event.
Yeah.
So we went into it, and I'm able to say, prior to this evening, we've raised $8,000. Our goal is 35. Please help us get there. This is what it's going for.
that's cool.
And away you go.
And then you had also mentioned, I just want to touch on the workforce development. When I've talked with some of the other CEOs, they've definitely mentioned that workforce development was their prime initiative. So I don't want to go into too much detail on it, but maybe just share a little bit about where the funding comes from your workforce development programs, and a little bit about what they look like.
Yes. So some grant dollars, and we use the pipeline talent management out of the U.S. Chamber programming, and that also feeds into the manufacturing and bioscience alliances and initiatives as well. Workforce is our number one issue we hear from our businesses. So working directly with our school districts is huge. Our community college, very, very much, they are our higher ed in the Flathead. And they're very supportive. They do a lot of the grant writing using a lot of Perkins dollars. The chamber contributes the staff time. They use the grant monies to do the production of whatever we're working on that year. And it works really well. It's a wonderful partnership.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So it's grants, and when you're saying grants, the grants are coming from what type of
organization? The majority, occasionally the chamber will write a grant. We haven't in my year, but I know in the past they did. The majority of grants are gotten by the community college. And then, like I say, our staff time is what is considered part of the match to the grant. So for instance, last year I think the college got, I want to say, a $15,000 Perkins grant to produce 20 VOTEC trade videos, since COVID was going on and kids weren't touring manufacturers or community colleges, etc. So we produced 20 videos that were then utilized in the middle and high schools to get kids tracking into those different directions. That was from healthcare to food manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, and then trades.
That's perfect. And actually, interestingly enough, I'm wearing my local community college's logo right here. Nice. But I haven't developed that relationship yet with our community college, where they're funding some of our activities in that way. Do you have any advice on ways to get the community college invested in?
It starts with relationship building. And so start there. I would take your president of your community college out for coffee or beer or wine, get to know them well. And then they definitely have somebody pinpointed for work-based learning right now and VOTEC training. They should be out talking with employers just as you are. And so I think, the thing to do is to sit down and help them see the value in you going with them along that journey, because you are the pipeline to the employer, right? So they can save resources on their end by using what you do best, and you harness what they can do, which is a lot of that government funding and so forth, and figure out some initiatives you want to work on together.
Awesome. No, that's excellent advice and an excellent suggestion. So thank you. And then
You're
another
welcome.
question I had for you was you mentioned that you're a year at this chamber and you
Yes.
transferred over. So were these programs already in place before you got there, and you're working on them, expanding on them, or are these things that you brought to your new chamber?
3 out of the 4 were here. And so there we have the one new one that we're working on, which is primarily the Bioscience Alliance. So yeah, we're expanding. And, the Manufacturing Alliance was just going gangbusters up until 2020.
Yeah.
And I think it started in 2018. So I think they had 2 years under their belt. We did an entire manufacturing month in October, which I thought was the coolest thing when I learned about it. Not only did we get kids and teenagers into the manufacturing facilities to learn about careers, it was open to the whole community. So parents came as well as general citizens came, and the manufacturers loved it. We had rented buses. There were, hundreds and hundreds of people signed up to do these tours. March 2020, all of that shut down. Even this past October, we just completed. We couldn't really do too much because most aren't still fully opened up to the public. So we're calling it 2.0, kind of a reboot to it. So we'll be going back out in December, having some steering committee meetings, sitting down and saying, what does 2022 look like? And what, again, revisit needs. We know it'll be workforce, but there could be others along there. Supply chains are challenging. Whether or not we can do something there, I don't know. But it's, our role really as the convener to get folks together and get them talking, because they're going to be those problem solvers. We can assist and we can be support too and convene partnerships, but they know their business.
And then maybe a last question on that front is getting business. We've tried working with manufacturing businesses here in our hometown, and it's been kind of a challenge to get them invested or involved in the chamber.
It is a real challenge.
Yeah, do you have any advice on ways to get those types of businesses invested in this type of programming?
Keep knocking on their door. They are a stubborn and very busy group, and until you can actually get them together, there seems to be a real hesitancy that you don't see in other areas of business or clusters. But you can do it. You just have to be persistent and authentic and intentional. You don't want to waste their time. I have seen that happen, and that's not a good thing. So really make sure your ducks are in a row and you have that the plan well mapped so that there's going to be outcomes at the end of the day, especially when you first go out of the gate.
All right. Well, Lorraine, thank you so much for chatting with me today, sharing me insights. I know you had a very busy day yesterday, so thank you so much for taking the time out of today to chat with me briefly. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I hope I was half coherent.
No, it's fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right. Good to meet you.
Likewise.
Take care.